We are at the Angel Oak in Charleston, South Carolina today, and she has a very surprising message for some of you. When you treat something as fragile, as precious, as if it could easily break, it suddenly becomes that thing. And it doesn't matter how durable it is or how sustainable it is. When you decide something is fragile, you're actually taking away its resilience. You're actually allowing it to become the thing you fear. This is her message today. We came here and there are all of these signs of all of these things you can't even do in the vicinity of the tree because they want to protect it for 500 years. And this offended me when I came up because I understand the nature of trees. I also understand the idea of preserving them, and yet her message is this. I am not an exhibit in one of your museums, and I am not something here simply to look pretty. I have a purpose and I have a reason. And all of you have forgotten that. You have forgotten that everything that exists has a reason and has a purpose. And instead, you decide what is valuable. You decide what isn't. You decide which trees to cut down and turn into mulch to make the trees you decide precious even prettier by sticking their dead friends underneath them. She is so very tired of people telling her who and what she needs to be. She's a tree, and that's all she needs to be. And yes, she is beautiful, and she is amazing, and she is incredible, but not because she's 300 years old. She's amazing and incredible because she's a tree. And this park is doing nothing but keeping her from being able to be who she is. If it is kept up, she will not last 500 years. She will not last another 3. Because every day someone decides she's too precious to be a tree is one more day closer to the fact that she can't exist as she is. She says this is a great metaphor for life in general. Those things you hold so precious, so fragile that they have to be protected. What happens? Do they stay safe? Are they resilient? No. They're the things that break. They're the things that lose all meaning because of your fear. Her message is one that says, let go of your fear. It's time. It's over. We're all tired of it. The trees, the humans, society, all of it. Fear is what creates the problems. And deciding you know better about what something is than the thing itself is exactly what got us here in the first place. So we see a lot of this in old oak trees kind of all over, that they've added, humans have added supports to help them. And I've never really asked a tree what they think about it. So we decided, since the Angel Oak's message is one of please leave us alone and let us thrive as we thrive, I thought I'd ask her what she thinks. She says support is always nice and it's helpful. It's not necessary. She says she's meant to lose branches. She's meant to become too heavy. She's meant to turn into ground running branches. And by supporting her in this way, she's actually not fulfilling that. The tree is a part of the earth, not separate from the earth. And by continually elevating her, or any tree for that fact, and separating it from the earth, you're actually keeping it from what it's supposed to do. It does make the branches last a little longer, and she appreciates the support, but they're not necessary. And not only are they not necessary, in some respects, it's harmful to a purpose. Her purpose is to support evolution through understanding that we're all connected. to understand that there is no difference in between the tree branch and the ground, to understand there is no difference in between the leaves and the branch, to understand there is no difference in between the root and the bark. There is no difference in between the dirt that surrounds her and the mycelium that allows her to communicate. It's all connected. It's all the same. We're the ones who decide that it has to be different. So I asked her while we're here, what is it like to be named the largest oak tree? And her response is this: I am neither the largest nor the most magnificent. I am not the oldest and I am not the smartest. I am simply me. What you deem me to be is on you, not on me. My purpose actually has nothing to do with being a sideshow attraction. And yet, here I am, surrounded by a fence, posts holding me up, signs everywhere of all the things you can't do around me. And she says, and yet, my purpose has nothing to do with any of it. So I'm standing in this amazing circle of trees. It's right off of the angel oak, and what's fascinating is these trees create this beautiful vortex here, this vortex of energy that brings almost giggles. It almost feels bubbly. And yet, if you notice, there's no one around, because this isn't the attraction. That is. And yet, this is much more magical in many different ways. He says the only thing worse than being a star attraction in a freak show is being the one no one pays attention to in that freak show. He says it's amazing how humans put importance on some things and not on others. It's fine if a dog pees on me, but if they peed on the angel oak, they would get kicked out. Am I not just as important? Do I not matter just as much? And yet, if they needed more mulch, I would be cut for it. This is much of how humans view your world, though. You make judgments about what's important and what isn't, what's precious and what isn't. We understand that in life, all things are precious, all things are important. Because if something isn't important, then nothing is. And yes, it is an all or nothing. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. Every human has a purpose. Every human has a reason. Every tree has a purpose. Every tree has a reason. Big, small, old, young, doesn't matter. You matter. And so do we. He says, I am beyond the protected barbed wire fence of this place, yet I wanted to say something. You can call me a death tree, because in your reference and understanding, that is what I would be. What I actually am is a tree of transformation. I am here literally to hold the vibration of transformation so that things can change, things can grow, things can become something new. And if you look at me, you can see I've had many incidences that have made me look like I am dying. I am not. I am simply transforming from one thing to another. And yet, you do not consider me important. She says, I am a wisdom tree. I literally hold space for there to be wisdom on the planet. My nodules may look like other trees' nodules, and yet each tree's nodules mean something different. They hold something different. These are records of wisdom, records of how wisdom happens. You are here for the experience because you already have the knowledge. And that is what wisdom is, knowledge plus experience. And it is because of trees like me that you have that availability. They say we are symbiotic, but in a different way than you've heard of before. We are actually sisters of sorts. You could even call us twins. And we chose to do this together because we share a single mind. We shared a single thought when we were created. And it was split in two. It was divided because the thought was so big, one of us couldn't hold it. And that thought is of creation. That thought is of life. That thought is of the ever-expanding way that everything evolves. It was too much for one of us to hold. So we are twins in symbiosis. This guy here says, speaking of the importance you lay on things, according to humans, the only thing he's good for is holding down a picnic table so people won't steal it in a heavily guarded area. He says, but what if he told you that each one of these nodules on him has something to do with sacred geometry and understanding how vibration works in this area? We've all recognized we're in a shift at this point. There's a lot of debate about what that shift is, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter. But he says without his nodules, the shift could not happen in this area. And yet we've decided as humans that his only purpose is to chain a picnic table to. He understands the attraction of something so big and so beautiful. But there are small things that are beautiful too. And we all have a purpose. Thanks for listening.